This is a how to change your blade for the 4090 wood chipper. We're going to show you how to remove the old blades, clean it, and either put a new blade back in it or the same blade on the second side so it's ready for operation. So people always ask us, when do I know my blades are dull? And there's a couple of ways you can look at it. The first one's going to be is just visually. You can just see that the top of the blade has got nicks and dents in it. It's just visually not sharp anymore. Second thing to look at would be, let's say you're chipping and yeah, you're getting a lot of your regular small chips, but you're getting a lot of like smaller twigs through it too. That's an indicator that my blades are getting somewhat dull. And thirdly would be, let's say you put a branch in and the motor slows down very quickly and the machine is easily overloaded. That means it's not efficiently chipping anymore and the blades need to be sharpened. So before we go ahead and do the blade change, let's look at the tools that we're going to need. We definitely need a torque wrench. Now it doesn't need to be a big torque wrench like this. It can be a bit smaller, but anything good for about 35 foot-pounds because that's the torque spec. We're going to need an extension to get actually down to the blade and a 1/4 inch driver to remove the bolt from the blade. We have an O-ring pick just to keep any dirt out of the top of that bolt so we can get a good seat to actually remove the bolt. A small wire brush just to clean that blade off, any debris, and some anti-seize. We use this on the bolt. That way when we do the blades the next time, we can get them out, and that's very important. A bit of soap and a rag to keep things clean again. And after we use the O-ring pick to get the dirt out of the top, or any wood debris out of the top of the bolt, we're going to use some compressed air just to blow any small stuff out of there. A pressure washer can be also used. So before we even touch the machine, we first want to make sure the throttle is in the off position and the E-stop is pushed down for safety. Then we can remove the in-feed chute by opening all the latches and removing it. Now, sometimes it's best to do this with 2 people, but if you're by yourself, it's definitely doable. Just keep your back straight, toss it to the floor, and you can keep going. Alright, so first thing we want to do is use the blade lock that has been sent with the machine. Insert it in the hole and just rotate it back till it locks the rotor in place. This is going to keep the rotor from moving around. And remember, these blades are awfully sharp, so you want to be very careful how you handle these because even when they're dull, there's going to be sharp sections on that blade. Then we'll come along with our O-ring pick and just come in here and just loosen up some of that hard material. You know, this could be tree sap, this could be a little bit of wood, bark, whatever it is. So loosen up the hard stuff, and from there, blow the debris out. Once they're clean, take your torque wrench, put it on the bolt, make sure it's seated properly, and they can be removed. And there we go. We'll take this blade to our bench, clean it up, and get ready to flip it over. So now that we have our blade out of the chipper, we're going to go ahead and clean this blade. Now it's not a very dull blade, but for demonstration purposes we're showing you how to change the blade. So from here, we're going to take our soap, go over it, and make sure we get it all nice and clean. Wire brush, and we just want to get some of that sap off and everything else that's being caked on the blade. Between cleaning the outside of the blade, make sure you also get your finger in there and clean at both holes, because that's a very important part of the mounting of the blade, that these are clean and it's a good contact between the bolt and the blade. And there we go. We got our used side. You can see there's a couple small nicks and stuff out of it, and our new side is in good shape, so this blade is ready to go back on. Now once the blade is clean, your bolts simply take them like this and just clean the old anti-seize off the bolts. And now we're ready for reinstallation. So we got our blade and our bolts cleaned. Before we put the blade back on the rotor, we definitely want to clean this to make sure it's equally as clean as the blade. And then I'm going to give it a quick blow just to get any crud out of the threads. And now it's good to go. So the blade can just sit there like that. Now it's very important that before you reinstall your bolts, you apply some anti-seize to these bolts. Now anti-seize is going to keep these bolts from getting basically stuck in that rotor, because you might put this machine away for storage for 5, 6, maybe even a year and pick it up next spring to chip. And so when you need to take these bolts out, you don't want to have to struggle with this. So some anti-seize keeps that from happening, and you don't need to put too much on it. And then also try to get some on the taper as well. And from there, it's good to install. And from there you can snug them with your hand. And when you see a little bit of anti-seize squeeze out of the head, that's exactly what you want. That means you got a nice amount on there, and any extras is just squishing out of the top. From there, we can take your torque wrench. Now it's very important to set your torque wrench for 35 foot-pounds. Yeah? If these bolts are over tightened, it'll be very difficult to get them out, and if they're too loose, that's obviously the incorrect torque spec, and serious injury could occur. So it's very important that it's set to 35 foot-pounds. And from there, they can be tightened all the way up. And after you've got over the first time, always double check it the second time. And there you go. That blade has been changed. Now, we're only showing the one blade, but certain rotors could have two blades or a single blade, and you just duplicate the process for a two-blade rotor. Once you've tightened both blades and everything is good to go, make sure you remove the blade lock, and from there, the process has been completed and we can put the in-feed chute back on the wood chipper. So once the blades are back in the machine, they're torqued, and all your tools are cleaned up to prevent a trip hazard, go ahead and reinstall the in-feed chute. Make sure you set your clamps. And that's how easy a blade change is on a 4090 wood chipper. Of course, if there's any questions, email us or call us anytime. And remember, hit that like button and enjoy your machine.